So this next question says, was there a specific moment or experience that made me decide that I was going to change my story or that I'm going to change my story? Oh, absolutely. In fact, there were lots of moments and experiences, but I think one stood out. But before I share that, I probably would also share that I already shared how it was like, struggling to finish up in the university and everything because of the finances. And so down the line I went for service, got a job as a customer care professional then, or associate. And then down the line I stopped the work, which I'm going to maybe also share more of that. And then I started and then I'd already started my master's degree program, which I'm also going to get to that part of the conversation. So I was now looking for, because my master's degree was in human resources, so I started looking for opportunities in human resources. But things were still the way they were at home. Sometimes I would want to go for interviews. I would not have transport. Yeah, so what I did at the time when I started job hunting was that I went to live with one of my family friends. And every time, because the funny thing is that the distance from my family friend's house to my parents' house was probably just about 15 minutes, or yeah, about 15 minutes drive. But then every time people ask me that, oh, so what's the point? Why your parents live? It's not like your parents are in, say, Surulere, and then your family friend's house is in, you know, Yanapaja or something. And then I would always give people the excuse that, oh, I actually moved to this my family friend's house so that I can have easy access to transport system so that if I'm going for interviews. But the reality is that one of the reasons I moved to my family friend's house was because hunger was one of them. At least it was guaranteed that I was going to eat. I was going to get food to eat. It's back home again. On some days we were lucky, we'll probably get to eat like one meal a day. Some days there was really nothing to eat. And those days we would go to me and my siblings will go to some of our friends like around, and then we'll probably eat in their houses and come back home. So then I decided to move to my family friend's house. At least one, the primary reason, to be honest, why I moved was because like I said, I had already started going for interviews, and there was no way I would be productive going to an interview on an empty stomach. And also, at least living in my family friend's house, if I wanted to go for an interview and maybe I didn't have transport fare, at least I could ask oh, maybe someone can you help me with maybe 200 naira or 300 naira to go for an interview. As a matter of fact, when I was going for these interviews, my friend's dad, my friend uses a size 42 shoe size. His dad uses a size 42 shoe size, and I use a size 42 shoe size. As a matter of fact, all the interviews that I went for, number one, the suit that I wore to those interviews because I was interviewing in different places, and then if you're going for interview, you're expected to dress corporate. The suits that I was wearing to go for those interviews, the suit was for my friend. The shoe that I was wearing to those interviews, the shoe was for my friend's dad. I said we all wear the same. So it was one of the perks of living, in that living with my family friend. But of course, if I'm being honest, that also came with its own. Living in that place also came with its own. I don't want to maybe dirt, dirt. I came with its own insult. I'll put it that way. And there was a day that something happened, and when that thing happened, I went into the room. I cried my eyes out. What happened? It was just me and my friend's dad in the house. Even this thing I'm saying, I don't think I ever shared it with my friend, because the dad is he can be very strict, and sometimes it can be very intense. So it was just the two of us in the house, and then he goes, "Oh, nobody was at home." Like, okay, you know what? Go and get food. Go and get food. Um, and then give me money. That okay, like the two of us will eat the food. I got back home. I told him I was back, and then I got the food in a cooler, right? I got the food in a cooler, and then he calls me. Oh, carry, come and carry my own food. And then when I got to the dining table where the food was, it was the cooler in which I put the food in, which was covered, and then another another food now in a plate. So I took some of the food and put it in the plate. I think he covered it, or maybe it wasn't covered. I can't remember. So he just said, "Come and carry on food," and then my own instinct was that, oh, the food in the cooler has to be for him. I mean, he's the like adult and he's not ready to eat, and that's like the ideal place that his food should be. Like, I mean, I'm probably the one who's ready to eat, which is probably why this food has already been like plated and put in his plate. I carried that food and I ate the food. Couple of minutes later, called me and then started interrogating me and like, oh, this food. Now, why did I eat the food in the plate? I'm like, oh, but I assumed that he wasn't ready to eat, which was why he actually like dished my own in this plate. And then you think it was more than, and I remember the food very correctly. It was rice, beans, and pomo. I remember again, like I told you at the start of the session, I have a very, very, very retentive memory. It's just something that God has blessed me with. It was rice, beans, and pomo. Oh my God, I got the embarrassed. In fact, I'm a little emotional even talking about it now, because that experience changed something inside of me. That day, I told myself that I was not I told myself that that would be the last time I would ever leave off anyone again. I told myself that that was the turning point, that needed to change. Like there was this anger in me. Like I said, it got like the insult of my life. I got, you know, caught me all sort of things that, oh, I'm a glutton and everything that, oh, came to the dining table and I opened, which was not what even happened, that oh, I opened the cooler, and then I opened the plate, and then when I saw that it was the meat that was on the plate, that was the bigger one, I carried it. And like I said, I did not even, because again, like the Yoruba boy in me that's very respectful, like, oh, as the daddy of the house, like this is the ideal place that this food should be in. And I got the insult of my life that day. There was no, I don't think there was any name that I felt worthless at that moment. I felt like a beggar at that point. I felt like someone who's eating from. Anyways, I really just again like, my friend probably I never told my friend. He was so, but if he ever comes across this, I'm sure probably they probably would know. So I don't want to even like go into the details of that. But that experience changed something in me. And whatever I was doing then, in terms of maybe trying to get a job, in terms of even like wanting to do better for myself, in terms of preparing for interviews, I started doing double. I started doing double of it. I started putting in, you know, extra work. What I was doing, because again, like I said, that thing, there was this anger. I just like, yeah, it was a mix of emotions. Initial reaction to that was tears. And then when that happened and I went into the room, I really cried. I cried because that moment I thought about, what things used to be like for my family, the kind of food I ate, kind of life that I live. And now because I don't have that anymore and being subjected to things like this. So it was a mix of different emotions. It was sadness, it was pain. Of course, there was also like the positive emotions. It was like the zeal to want to do more. It was like that positive anger that, you know what, I nobody is going to come to save me. I'm going to be responsible for changing my own story. And like I said, whatever I was doing then, I started doing double of it. I started doing triple of it. I started putting extra work into whatever it is I was doing, whether I was preparing for interviews, whether I was applying, if I was applying for 10 jobs, I started applying for 30 jobs one day. That was that was one that experience actually was like what changed everything for me. Uh Another question is, did anyone believe in me before I believed in myself? I think my mom has always been like my answer is always very funny, and I mean, and I wouldn't blame people, because again, one thing my parents try to do is not to say, oh, this person's favorite child or all of those things. Well, my siblings will always say that, oh, I should forget that talk, that I'm kind of like my mom's. Okay, I don't know, and I still don't want to believe that that's true. I believe she loves everyone of us equally, but I think my mom has always been someone who, I don't know, she's just always like, believed in me. Yes, I mean, at some point I started like, believing in myself too. In fact, when I got admission to study for my master's degree uh, at the University of Lagos, I was still working a job. I was earning 40,000 as a customer care associate then. But I looked at again, based on all these experiences that I've got through, I was like, man, if I really want to grow in this 9 to 5 professional life, that I don't think there's any, I mean, no disrespect to customer care professionals that doing an amazing job, and they're doing a very important work. And I thought about it then. I was like, what's the career path here? How far can I go? Customer care manager, supervisor. Is that the kind of life that I want for myself? And that was enough motivation for me to say, you know what, I'm going to try something else. And then I started doing research. Then I came across human resources. Then I didn't even know much about human resources. Then if anyone had told me anything about human resources, I probably felt then was that human resources was just about hiring and firing people. But I started reading more, and because of my research, I came across human resources, read a lot about it. I was like, this is actually interesting. And I found it interesting because I also felt like I had some skills in working as a customer care professional. I had some skills that could easily be transferred into the HR profession. So based on that, I saved up to get the master's degree form. I sat for the entrance exam. I passed. And then when I got admission, it was time to pay the school fees. And I think the first installment was about, I can't remember, 100 and something thousand. And I didn't even have the money. So, again, like I said, I was earning 40,000. Now, mind you, this 40,000 naira that I was earning, part of it I was also, sending, every time I got paid, I'll give my parents something back home. Yeah, probably wasn't enough to feed, but at least, maybe for 1 week, 2 weeks, at least, food they would be able, and they probably would maybe give them 10,000 naira out of it or something. And I know that's not the case now. And this thing I'm saying is probably 2012, 2013, 2014, where things had not become the way they are now in Nigeria. Food was still relatively affordable. So every time out of that 40,000, every time I was and I'd always been even when I was serving and I was earning the 19,000 at the time, I made it a point of duty to always send something home. When I was serving, once I got paid my 19,000, I think I would send maybe 7,000 naira home or something like that. I can't remember now. So when I told my mom that I got admission, but I wasn't even excited about how I was sad. I don't know how someone could get an admission to study, to go for their master's degree, and they would be sad. But I told my mom that I think I'm just going to defer this and try to work hard and maybe just gather some money and stuff. My mom was one thing that she told me that I know that I should not defer is that if it is the will of God that I should pursue this master's degree, then it might not be easy, but somehow God is just going to make a way and God is going to help me go through it. And that kind of gave me a renewed energy. I think it was what I needed to hear at that point. And which is why till today, there's no way my mom is sending me a message that making a request that I'm not going to attend to. A lot of people might not understand, but see that decision not to defer that admission, that decision to actually go ahead and pursue that master's degree was what landed me my first HR role. And landing that first HR role was what changed my story forever. And whatever I am today, I owe it to my mom's advice not to defer that admission, to go for it. Because my first HR job that I got it even when I was still in the course of my master's degree. Because then, the director was just, what, I just like you, your pursuit for, you of knowledge. I see you're passionate about human resources and you are backing it up with, facts Like you've read so much about human resources. Now you're pursuing a master's degree. Like what that tells me is that you're really committed to this profession. And not because like you were like the most outstanding candidate, but I just see that you are really putting in the work. And because of that, I'm going to, you're going to be offered this position. And that, again, like I said, changed story, or my story started changing from then. So back to the question. I know, yeah, I probably went, different ways, but back to the question: did anyone believe in me before I believed in myself? I think my mom definitely believed in me a lot. It still believes in me. uh, yes, but then I also believe in myself. And so next question is: how did I take that first small step towards a better life when the odds seem stacked against me, which I kind of feel like I've touched on, because taking that master's degree was what, was that first small step that I needed to take. And I'm going to share uh, an important story in the middle of this that I feel like would have changed the trajectory of my life forever. But thank God that did not happen. And every time I think about that incident, I come to the realization that sometimes names are very powerful, because my full name is Yomi Oluwanyoje. And for those who are watching who don't understand Yoruba, what it means is that the devil would have mocked me, the devil would have shamed me, but God did not let that happen. Now, in the course of so we're pursuing that master's degree, trying to get funds, I took a loan where I was working. So I was paying, and I took about 150,000 naira loan. That was to pay back 15,000 naira in 10 months. Like, so pay 15,000, really deducting 15,000 from my salary. So from my 40,000 salary, I was now earning 25,000, just so that I could, and even that money was not enough to even sort the fees for the first session, because I had to pay for other things and but yeah, and then my mom also rallied around, and I think she was able to help me get some 20K, which I'm eternally grateful for. But one thing happened where I was working. My boss at the time also had a car business, like a showroom where he was selling like new cars. So the company I was working for, his company, but for not the car dealership company. I was working for another company entirely. It was an e-commerce company. So we were using one of the floors. They had just opened like a very big office. There were 3 or 4 floors. So I was using one of the floors we were using one of the floors as the office for the e-commerce company. And then they had a lounge where there was like a snooker board. The snooker board was on the second floor. The showroom for the cars was on the ground floor. So usually with some of my colleagues would after lunch would play snooker. And we were playing snooker one day. And then I hit the ball like so hard. And you know how snooker balls are very hard. And the ball flew out of the snooker board. Don't forget, the car showroom was downstairs, like down for lots of cars. I remember correctly, because my boss then was dealing with Toyota cars. So new Toyota Corollas, new Toyota SUVs, I think Prado and all of those things. So I hit the snooker ball, and then the white ball flew out of the board. And before I knew it, pam pam, the thing bounced. Don't forget, I said the office was on the second floor, and the ball dropped from the second floor. The moment it was dropping, I was like, the village people have gotten me now. Like in that split second, because I knew it was going to drop on the windscreen of one of the cars parked downstairs. And mind you, I was already paying like the 150,000 naira loan out of my 40,000 naira salary that I was earning. Within that split second, I was like, no, this is it. I'm going to break a windscreen. And that's going to, within that, before the ball landed, like all of these things, and it's crazy how all of these things have run through my head. The next minute, like what brought me back to life was the sound of the ball hitting the bonnet. Thankfully, the bonnet of one of the cars. So as the ball flew, what I heard, so instead of hearing the windscreen smash, all he did was hit his bonnet. And imagine if that thing had hit, because one thing was sure, with my boss then, I was going to repay if I had broken that, windscreen. I was going to, there was no, nothing about forgiveness. You know what that meant? What that meant, or you know what that means? What that means is that I would have had to work, continue working, only God knows for how many years in that customer care job until I'm able to finish repaying the money for the windscreen. Had it been a broke? And you see that experience? I I was scared, like for the remaining hours in that day I couldn't do any work. I was shaking. And shaking because I kept asking myself, what if this had happened? What if this had happened? That's why I said that would have changed like the trajectory of my life, like completely. And only God knows where I would have been today. Because again, like I said, I would have remained, because after paying that 150,000 naira loan that I got, I would have then now, had to like start paying for the windscreen, which probably going to cost a lot of money because, like I said, they're new cars. Thankfully, that didn't happen. So I was able to pay off my 150,000 naira loan. And then when I was done, I was able to leave that job and then I was able to focus on, interviewing, and then start interviewing for jobs. And down the line, got the opportunity to start my first HR job eventually in 2010. So the first small step that I took was actually enrolling for that master's degree. Because like I said, it was that master's degree that opened the doors for me. After that first job, just felt like God had designed it. Things started to fall in line for me gradually. Things started to fall in line gradually. That first job was, I think my salary was like maybe 87,000, which was huge money for me then. I mean, for someone who was earning 40,000 naira from customer care, and then I got a job where I'm now earning 87,000. So I was able to do more things. Yeah, so I think that was like the first small step toward a better life. So if I could name one mindset, oh, sorry, mindset shift that changed everything, what would it be? I think mindset shift would be when I started going for attending classes for my master's degree. Like I met people, I met professionals that were already working. Because it was a part-time master's program, so a lot of the people in my class were already working. And then I started engaging, and then I was very popular back in my master's class. Because I'm this guy who was always making everyone laugh in the group, and before people knew it was me, and then they used to call me Trailblazer. Before people knew I was the one, always making people laugh. I think it's just very, people say I'm funny. I don't know, but I guess I got that from my dad, because there's no way you stay with my dad in 10 minutes, you just laugh, even though the intention is not for him, you didn't have the intention of making you laugh, but he's just a very funny guy. I think I'm like that too. So people really, and then when people found out that it was me, So because of that, and then I also like started engaging people more, talking to people. And people were like telling me things about HR. Oh, how much some of them were earning. And like, oh wow, really? Because then from my 40,000 naira customer care job, I was just hoping to get a I was always hoping to get like maybe like then if I got like a 70,000 or 75,000 naira job, like my head I was like, then that was the dream. Then, but talking to these people, learning from them, listening to them, just like a mindset shift just happened after that. So I would say yes, that was actually just meeting people in that master's program was what actually, and having conversations with them and understanding the HR profession and how to properly value yourself was actually what led to that mindset shift for me.